What happens when a Hollywood star known for keeping her cool sits across from one of daytime TV's most outspoken voices? And the conversation takes a turn nobody expected. Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. So the cameras are rolling, the audience is already warmed up, and you can feel that usual buzz in the studio. It's another live episode of The View. The hosts are at the table, smiling, shuffling their cards, reacting to the earlier hot topics. Then the introduction begins. Whoopi leans forward slightly, smiling toward the audience. Our next guest is an award-nominated actress known for her bold choices on and off screen. Please welcome Dakota Johnson. The audience claps, some cheers, a few whistles. Dakota Johnson walks out, composed as ever. She gives a soft wave, hugs Whoopi, greets the panel one by one. When she reaches Sunny Hostin, there's a polite hug, but it's noticeably quick. Not cold, but not warm either. They all sit down. Whoopi starts light. Dakota, you've been busy. New film, new producing credits. You're just doing everything. Dakota smiles. Trying to. It's mostly chaos behind the scenes. The audience laughs gently. Joy jumps in with a joke about Hollywood chaos, and Dakota plays along. For the first few minutes, it's easy. They talk about filming overseas, difficult directors, long shoots. Dakota is relaxed, cracking small, dry jokes in that understated way she has. Then Sunny shifts the tone. So Dakota, Sunny begins, glancing at her notes. You've spoken before about privilege in Hollywood. You've said you recognize the doors that were opened for you because of your family. Dakota nods calmly. Yeah, I've always been honest about that. Sunny continues, her voice measured but firm. Some critics say that acknowledgment isn't enough. That actors from established families still dominate opportunities that could go to people without those connections. How do you respond to that? There's a slight murmur in the audience. Not loud, just noticeable. Dakota's smile fades just a touch, not defensive yet, but alert. I think it's a fair conversation, she says. But I also think it's more complicated than that. Sunny leans in. Complicated how? Dakota keeps her tone even. Because it's not like someone hands you a 20-year career. You still have to audition. You still get rejected. You still fail. Sunny doesn't smile. But you don't start from the same place as someone who doesn't have parents in the industry. A brief silence. Whoopi shifts in her seat. Dakota responds, still controlled. No, I don't. And I've never said I did. Sunny tilts her head slightly. But do you understand why some people feel frustrated seeing the same last names over and over? The audience reacts, some claps, some murmurs. Dakota inhales. Of course I understand frustration. But I also think it's dangerous to reduce someone's work to just their last name. Joy tries to lighten it. Well, if we did that here, I'd still be Joy from Brooklyn with a bad haircut. The audience laughs. Tension breaks for a second. But Sunny doesn't let it go. It's not about reducing. It's about accountability. Dakota's expression shifts again, subtle, but sharper. Accountability for what exactly? You can feel the air change. It's not explosive. It's not shouting. It's something more uncomfortable. Two people who both believe they're right. Sunny answers, for benefiting from a system that excludes others. Dakota nods slowly. So what would you like me to do? Quit acting. A few gasps. Not dramatic, just enough to register. Sunny raises her eyebrows. That's not what I said. Dakota keeps eye contact. I know, but that's where the conversation sometimes goes. Like, you shouldn't be here because of who your parents are. Whoopi jumps in gently. Okay, let's slow down. But Sunny speaks over her slightly. No one's saying you shouldn't be here. The question is whether the system needs to change. Dakota responds immediately. I agree it should change. That's why I produce. That's why I hire people I believe in. Sunny counters. But do you step aside for someone without your access? That line lands hard. The audience goes quiet. Dakota blinks once. I don't think art works like musical chairs. You can hear a couple of nervous laughs. Sunny presses on. It works through power. And power isn't equal. Dakota's tone tightens, still calm, but no longer soft. Right. And I don't control the entire industry. Sunny replies, but you're part of it. Dakota nods. Yes. And I try to be a responsible part of it. Whoopi finally steps in more firmly. All right. This is good. This is a real conversation. Let's just, everyone breathe. The audience laughs lightly at Whoopi's intervention. Dakota turns slightly toward Whoopi, but keeps glancing back at Sunny. I'm not denying privilege. I just think sometimes the narrative becomes, you didn't earn anything. And that's not true. Sunny's voice softens just a bit. No one's saying you didn't work. But starting 5 steps ahead is still starting 5 steps ahead. Dakota pauses. You can see her thinking before she speaks. I agree. But I can't apologize for being born into my family. The audience reacts, mixed applause and murmurs. Sunny answers quickly. It's not about apologizing. It's about acknowledging systemic imbalance. Dakota's eyes narrow slightly. I've acknowledged it. Repeatedly. There's a flicker of tension now that feels less intellectual and more personal. Joy glances between them. Ladies, this is why we call it a hot topic. A few laughs ripple through the crowd, but the energy stays tight. Sunny leans back slightly, crossing her hands. So let me ask you directly. If you could go back and change the way your career started, would you? Dakota doesn't hesitate. No. That answer lands louder than anything else so far. A wave of reaction rolls through the audience, some claps, some audible. Oh. Sunny's eyebrows lift. So you wouldn't change having that advantage? Dakota's voice is steady. No, because it's my life. I can recognize advantages without pretending I'd erase my own history. Whoopi exhales audibly. Okay, there's a brief silence. You can see producers in the background shifting, sensing the moment. Sunny nods slowly. I respect the honesty, but her expression says the debate isn't over. Dakota offers a small, tight smile. Thank you. And right there, just before they pivot to commercial, you can feel it. The conversation didn't explode. No one shouted, but something shifted. It's no longer just a promotional interview. It's personal, ideological, and it's far from finished. The tension lingers as the music swells for break. And this is only the beginning. The show comes back from commercial, and the applause is slightly louder than usual. Not celebratory. More like the audience knows they just witnessed something real. Whoopi smiles toward the camera, but there's a measured tone now. We're back with Dakota Johnson, she says smoothly. And we were having a really honest conversation. Dakota sits upright, hands folded loosely in her lap. Sunny's posture is composed but alert. Joy looks curious. You can almost sense that producers told everyone in their earpieces, keep it balanced, but don't shut it down. Whoopi turns to Dakota. You mentioned producing. Let's talk about that. You've said you want to create opportunities for people who don't normally get them. Dakota nods. Yeah, that's important to me. Sunny jumps in before Whoopi can continue. But producing still means you're the gatekeeper. Dakota looks at her. It means I have influence, yes. Sunny's voice is calm but pointed. And influence is power. Dakota replies, yes. And I try to use it responsibly. Sunny tilts her head slightly. But who decides what responsibly means? The audience murmurs again. It's not aggressive, but it's charged. Dakota pauses before answering. The people I work with. The audiences. The results. Sunny shakes her head gently. That's still a closed circle. Hollywood deciding what Hollywood needs. Dakota's tone tightens just slightly. I don't think that's fair. Sunny responds, isn't it? If you're hiring, producing, approving scripts. Dakota interrupts softly but firmly. I'm collaborating. I'm not sitting on a throne. A few scattered laughs from the audience. Sunny smiles faintly. But you are sitting at the top of a hierarchy. Dakota leans forward now, matching Sunny's posture. Sunny, every industry has hierarchies. Media does too. The audience reacts, some audible sounds. Sunny doesn't back down. Absolutely. And we talk about that here all the time. Dakota nods. Right. So then you know it's not as simple as step aside. If I step aside, someone else with power fills that space. Whoopi raises a hand slightly. Let's make sure we're not turning this into a personal indictment. Sunny responds without looking away from Dakota. It's not personal. It's structural. Dakota's voice is calm but firmer than before. But it feels personal when you keep asking what I should give up. There's a quiet ripple through the audience. Sunny replies, I'm asking what responsibility looks like when you benefit from a system that doesn't treat everyone equally. Dakota holds her gaze. Responsibility looks like hiring diverse crews. It looks like funding first-time directors. It looks like listening. Sunny counters quickly. And does it look like turning down roles so someone else can have them? There it is again. That same pointed angle. Dakota exhales slowly. No. It looks like earning the roles I auditioned for. Sunny raises her eyebrows. Even if someone equally talented doesn't get the same shot. Dakota answers immediately. That's not something I control. Joy jumps in. Let's be real, most of Hollywood is about who you know. The audience laughs lightly. Dakota nods. Exactly. And that's bigger than me. Sunny responds, but change starts with individuals. Dakota's tone sharpens just a fraction. And I am an individual doing what I can. There's a noticeable shift now. The politeness is thinning. Whoopi leans in. Okay, let's pull this back a little. But Sunny continues, her voice still steady. I think viewers watching at home hear this and think, must be nice. Dakota's expression changes, subtle, but there's frustration there now. I'm sure it is nice from the outside. Sunny presses. So is it not nice? A small pause. Dakota answers honestly. Of course it's nice. I'm grateful. But it also comes with pressure, assumptions, scrutiny. Sunny nods. That's fair. But that's different from systemic barriers. Dakota's voice lowers slightly. I'm not denying systemic barriers. Sunny replies, but you're defending the system. Dakota's eyes widen slightly. No, I'm defending myself. That line lands. The audience reacts with a louder murmur. Whoopi steps in again. This is what happens when you put two smart women at a table. A few laughs, but the tension remains. Dakota turns slightly toward Whoopi, then back to Sunny. It feels like no matter what I say, it's not enough. Sunny answers calmly. Because for a lot of people, acknowledgement isn't enough. Dakota's tone becomes more direct. So what would be enough? Sunny pauses. For the first time, she doesn't have an immediate response. Dakota continues, not raising her voice but speaking with more conviction. If I say I recognize my privilege, I do. If I say I try to create opportunities, I do. But if the expectation is that I should somehow diminish my own career to make a point, that's not realistic. Sunny replies, no one is asking you to diminish yourself. Dakota responds quickly. Then what are you asking? The audience is silent now, completely locked in. Sunny takes a breath. I'm asking you to acknowledge that success built on access is different from success built without it. Dakota nods slowly. It is different. Sunny looks slightly surprised by the direct agreement. Dakota continues, but different doesn't mean undeserved. A mix of applause and murmurs breaks out. Sunny responds carefully. Sometimes it means advantaged. Dakota replies, yes. Advantaged, not undeserved. There's a subtle but important distinction there, and both women know it. Joy glances at Whoopi. This is the calmest intense argument I've ever seen. The audience laughs nervously. Sunny leans back slightly. Let me ask you something else. When young actors without connections say they feel locked out, what do you tell them? Dakota answers without hesitation. I tell them the truth. It's hard. It's unfair. And it shouldn't be that way. Sunny nods. And then, Dakota continues, and then I try to hire them if I can. Sunny's lips press together slightly. If you can. Dakota catches the emphasis. Yes, if I can. Because I'm not the only decision maker. Sunny says quietly, but you're one of them. Dakota leans forward again. And I use that position. But I won't sit here and pretend I'm the villain in a system that existed long before me. That line draws the strongest reaction yet. Clear applause from a portion of the audience. Sunny doesn't clap. She watches Dakota carefully. I never called you a villain, Sunny says. Dakota nods. I know, but that's how it feels when the conversation keeps circling back to what I owe. Sunny's voice softens slightly. Public figures do owe something. Dakota replies, and I give. Time, money, opportunities. Sunny says, but do you give space? Dakota pauses again. This time longer. The silence stretches just enough to be uncomfortable. Finally, Dakota says, I don't believe my existence is taking up someone else's space. A quiet gasp from somewhere in the audience. Sunny's expression shifts, less combative, more reflective. That's an interesting way to put it. Dakota holds her gaze. Because that's what it sounds like sometimes. Whoopi leans in again, this time more assertively. All right, we're going to keep this respectful, because it is respectful. But let's remember, this is about systems, not personal attacks. Sunny nods. Agreed. Dakota nods too. Agreed. But the emotional undercurrent is still there. It hasn't gone away. It's deeper now. Whoopi tries to pivot slightly. Dakota, when you think about the next generation, what do you hope changes? Dakota answers carefully. Access. Transparency. Fewer closed doors. Sunny adds quietly. And fewer inherited keys? Dakota looks at her, just for a second longer than comfortable. Maybe fewer locked doors altogether. The audience applauds that line. But even in the applause, you can feel it. This conversation isn't resolved. It's evolving. And it's getting closer to something that feels less theoretical and more personal with every exchange. The applause fades, but the energy at the table doesn't settle. It actually feels heavier now. Less about clever lines, more about what's sitting underneath all of it. Whoopi gives a small nod, almost like she's deciding whether to move on or let it breathe. All right, she says carefully. This is clearly something people feel strongly about. Sunny looks down briefly at her notes, then back at Dakota. Can I ask you something more personal? Dakota straightens slightly. Sure. Sunny's tone shifts. It's less about the industry now, more direct. Have you ever felt like someone assumed you weren't talented because of your family? The audience quiets immediately. Dakota answers without hesitation. Yes, many times. Sunny nods. And how did that feel? Dakota's jaw tightens just slightly. Frustrating. Dismissive. Like my work didn't matter. Sunny responds, that's how some people without access feel when they never even get the chance to audition. That lands differently. It's not sharp, it's personal. Dakota's expression softens for a moment. I understand that. Sunny tilts her head. Do you? There's no aggression in the question. But there's weight. Dakota leans forward again. I understand rejection. I understand working hard for something. Sunny interrupts gently. But do you understand not getting in the room? There's a pause. Dakota answers honestly. No, I don't. Because I did get in the room. The audience reacts with a low murmur. Sunny nods slowly. That's all I'm saying. Dakota continues, her voice steady. But once I was in the room, I still had to prove myself. Sunny responds quickly. After you were in. The subtle emphasis is unmistakable. Dakota exhales. Yes, after I was in. Joy looks between them. Can I just say something? There are a lot of people at home thinking both of you are right. A few claps break out. Sunny glances at Joy, then back at Dakota. It's not about being right. It's about recognizing reality. Dakota replies, I am recognizing it. Sunny leans in slightly. But you're resisting the idea that the head start matters. Dakota's tone sharpens. I've said multiple times that it matters. Sunny replies calmly. But you keep reframing it as a personal attack. Dakota's eyes flash slightly. Because when you keep asking if I should step aside, it feels like one. Sunny responds. I never told you to step aside. Dakota answers immediately. You asked if I would turn down roles. Sunny holds her gaze. I asked if that could be part of responsibility. The audience is completely silent now. Dakota sits back in her chair for the first time in several minutes. She crosses her arms loosely, not defensively but guarded. Let me ask you something, Dakota says. Sunny nods. Okay, Dakota continues. If you had an opportunity in your career because of someone you knew, would you have turned it down? The audience reacts audibly. A few oh sounds. Sunny doesn't flinch. I didn't come from that kind of background. Dakota nods. I know, but hypothetically. Sunny thinks for a second. If I believed someone else was more qualified and didn't get a fair shot, I'd like to think I'd question it. Dakota responds. Questioning isn't the same as refusing. Sunny says firmly, sometimes it is. Whoopi shifts in her seat again. Okay. Dakota leans forward again, more direct now. Sunny, do you think I'm unqualified? Sunny blinks, slightly surprised. No. Dakota presses, still calm but intense. Do you think I'm only where I am because of my parents? Sunny answers carefully. I think access opened doors. Dakota nods. And talent kept them open. The audience applauds, louder this time. Sunny doesn't clap, but she doesn't argue immediately either. Dakota continues. I've worked with directors who didn't care who my parents were. They cared if I showed up prepared. Sunny responds. But they knew who you were. Dakota replies. That doesn't guarantee success. Sunny says, it guarantees visibility. There's that distinction again. Dakota's voice lowers. Visibility doesn't equal longevity. Sunny answers, it equals opportunity. The back and forth is rhythmic now. Controlled. Intense. Neither woman is raising her voice, but the emotion is clear. Joy jumps in again. Can I ask something? Dakota, when you hear people criticize Nepo babies, does it hurt? Dakota lets out a small, almost humorless laugh. It's not my favorite phrase. Some audience laughter. She continues, it reduces people to a label. Sunny responds softly, Labels exist because patterns exist. Dakota looks at her directly. And people exist inside those patterns. That line gets a thoughtful murmur. Sunny's expression shifts slightly. Less confrontational, more reflective. Do you think the industry would look the same if family connections disappeared tomorrow? Dakota answers honestly. No. Sunny nods. That's the point. Dakota counters gently. But we can't erase history. We can only move forward. Sunny says, moving forward requires sacrifice from those at the top. Dakota's eyebrows lift. Sacrifice like what? Sunny replies, mentorship. Redistribution of power. Transparency in hiring. Dakota responds quickly. I do mentorship. I push for transparency. Sunny says quietly, but you still benefit. Dakota pauses, then says, yes, I do. The admission hangs in the air. Sunny nods. Thank you. There's a brief moment where it feels like something softened. But Dakota adds, benefiting doesn't mean I didn't earn anything. Sunny responds, no one said you didn't earn anything. Dakota's voice tightens slightly. It's implied. Sunny shakes her head. It's interpreted. That subtle difference sparks another ripple in the audience. Whoopi finally speaks up with more authority. All right, let me say this. Both of you are talking about two truths that can exist at the same time. The audience claps lightly. Whoopi continues. Dakota can be talented and advantaged. The system can be flawed, and she can still deserve her career. Sunny nods. I agree. Dakota nods too. I agree. But the emotional charge is still there. Sunny turns slightly toward Dakota again. I don't think you're the villain. I think you're an example. Dakota tilts her head. Of what? Sunny answers. Of how the system perpetuates itself. That line hits hard. Dakota's face changes, not anger, but something deeper. That's a heavy thing to put on one person. Sunny replies, I'm not putting it on you alone. Dakota says quietly, it feels like it. There's a long pause. No one jumps in. Even Whoopi lets it sit. Finally, Dakota adds, I can't rewrite how I was born. I can only decide how I behave. Sunny says softly, and that's what we're questioning. Dakota's eyes narrow slightly. No, you're questioning my choices. Sunny responds, because choices matter. Dakota answers, and I stand by mine. The audience reacts again, strong applause from one side, thoughtful murmurs from another. The tension is no longer just intellectual. It's personal, layered, emotional. And the conversation is clearly not finished. You can feel it in the room now. Not explosive, not chaotic, but heavy. The kind of silence that only happens when everyone knows they've just watched something real unfold on live television. Whoopi clears her throat gently. Okay, I think this is one of those moments where we all take a breath. The audience gives a soft, almost relieved laugh. Dakota sits back, shoulders squared but composed. Sunny's expression is steady, thoughtful, not angry, but firm. The tension isn't sharp anymore. It's layered. Whoopi continues. I want to say this. These conversations are uncomfortable because they matter. A wave of applause rolls through the studio. Sunny nods slightly. They do. Dakota nods too. I agree. There's a pause. It's not awkward, it's reflective. Joy leans in gently. Dakota, I'm curious. Has this conversation changed how you see the word privilege? Dakota takes a second before answering. No, she says honestly. But it's reminded me how differently people experience it. Sunny looks at her carefully. That's important. Dakota continues, voice calmer now. I've never denied having access. I've just resisted the idea that access cancels effort. Sunny nods slowly. And I've never said it cancels effort. Dakota glances at her. But it changes the starting line. Sunny responds softly, yes. That single word shifts the tone. Not combative. Not defensive. Just acknowledgement. Whoopi gestures with her hands slightly. See, this is what real dialogue looks like. The audience claps again, this time more unified. But the emotional energy hasn't fully dissolved. You can still see it in Dakota's posture, alert, guarded. You can see it in Sunny's eyes, determined, reflective. Whoopi tries to lighten it slightly. We didn't plan for a philosophy class today. Laughter breaks out. Dakota smiles faintly. I should have prepared notes. Sunny gives a small smile back. You did fine. It's subtle, but it's the first moment that feels genuinely warm. Then Whoopi turns toward Dakota. Before we wrap, what would you say to someone watching who feels like the system is stacked against them? Dakota looks straight ahead, almost toward the camera. I'd say it probably is. The audience murmurs. She continues. And that doesn't mean stop trying. It means push harder and demand better. Sunny watches her closely. Dakota adds, and I'd also say, hold people accountable, including me. That line earns strong applause. Sunny nods. That's fair. There's a shift in the room. It's no longer about winning. It's about clarity. Whoopi glances at the clock. All right, we're almost out of time. You can feel the producers signaling wrap-up. Sunny speaks one more time. I appreciate you staying in the conversation. Dakota turns to her fully now. I appreciate you asking the hard questions. It's not overly sentimental. It's not dramatic. But it's sincere. The audience applauds again, louder now. As the segment ends, the camera pulls slightly wider. The hosts exchange looks. Dakota stands, hugs Whoopi first, then Joy. When she turns to Sunny, there's a brief pause, just a fraction of a second, before they hug. It's polite, not overly warm, but respectful. The music plays. And just like that, the live broadcast ends. But that's not where the story stops. Because within minutes, clips from The View are circulating online. Short clips, cropped moments, 10-second exchanges. The "Do you think I'm unqualified?" line. The "Access open doors" line. The "Talent kept them open" line. On social media, it explodes. Some viewers praise Dakota Johnson for staying calm. They call her composed, articulate, honest. They say she handled herself with grace. Others applaud Sunny Hostin for not backing down. They say she asked the questions no one else would. They call it accountability, not confrontation. Clips get millions of views in hours. Headlines start forming. Dakota Johnson faces tough questions on The View. Sunny Hostin challenges Hollywood privilege. Tense moment on live TV. Comment sections are divided. Some viewers say Sunny pushed too hard. Others say she didn't push hard enough. Some say Dakota sounded defensive. Others say she sounded human. And then comes the behind-the-scenes talk. Reports surface that after the cameras stopped rolling, the conversation didn't immediately end. There wasn't shouting. There wasn't drama. But there was quiet discussion. Producers reportedly stepped in to thank Dakota for staying engaged. Sunny was seen speaking with her off to the side for a few extra minutes. No raised voices. Just two people finishing a conversation that didn't quite fit into a television time slot. By the next morning, both names are trending. Entertainment outlets replay the exchange on loop. Some former actors weigh in, sharing their own stories about access and rejection. Industry insiders comment anonymously about how common these dynamics are. And interestingly, neither Dakota nor Sunny posts anything inflammatory. Dakota shares a simple photo from the set with a caption about important conversations. Sunny tweets about necessary dialogue. No jabs. No shade. Just acknowledgement. Back on daytime TV the next week, Whoopi references it briefly. We had quite the discussion last week, she says with a knowing smile. The audience laughs. But the impact lingers. Because what people witnessed wasn't a shouting match. It wasn't a scandal. It was two women from very different starting points discussing power. In real time, without walking away. And that's why it resonated. Not because someone stormed off. Not because someone cried. But because no one did. They stayed. They disagreed. They listened, even when it was uncomfortable. And now we want to hear from you. Was Sunny right to press the issue? Was Dakota right to defend herself? Can both things be true at the same time? Drop your opinion in the comments and let us know where you stand. And don't forget to subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories, real debates, and the moments that don't get edited out.